Hey guys, it's Punisher back here again, and today this is sort of going to be an unscripted video, so there's going to be some mistakes here and there, but today I just want to go on a little ramble about this. If you can't tell, we're going to talk about the first Resident Evil. Oh, I forgot this version here. Now, Resident Evil, the first game, is something that, at first, I didn't really care for. I didn't really care for the first game all that much. I mainly liked the second one, because that was my first Resident Evil that I was exposed to. Way back, around probably about 10 years ago now. That's how I was introduced to the series. But I knew about the first game. I knew that it existed, but I never played it. Because in the second game, basically, they recap the story in like the first minute of the game. It wasn't until it really started to bother me that I wanted to play the first game. So I picked this up. I wanted the original version, even though it's considered, well, this version anyway is considered the hardest version of the first Resident Evil because there's no auto aim or anything. You have to manually aim. So I tried to play this version. I tried. I just couldn't do it. The game was too hard. There was no auto aim. I couldn't do it. So I can't remember like the specific timeline where I bought all this stuff because it's been so long, but I did. This is like, I think this is the second version I picked up, was Deadly Silence. Now, Deadly Silence is my favorite version of the game by far, because it has auto aim, it has all the stuff that Resident Evil Director's Cut has, but it also has some new stuff. But Deadly Silence, this is the version I played the most, and this is my version of Resident Evil 1. Now, if you don't know the plot to Resident Evil 1, basically, you play as the Alpha team. I'm not very good at explaining, so I'm just going to try my best to explain the stuff here. But I'm going to show this a lot, by the way. But Resident Evil, in the first Resident Evil, you have a choice between two characters. You can either play as Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine. And basically, you are a member of the STARS Alpha team who goes to the mansion to search for Bravo team. Outside of the mansion where they're investigating, or they're trying to investigate, trying to find some remains of Bravo team, Joseph gets eaten by one of the zombie dogs. He gets killed. And then the zombie dogs start chasing the Alpha team, and they run into the mansion for safety. And basically what you're trying to do is, from that point, you're trying to escape the mansion. That's the best way I can explain the first Resident Evil to you. Now, this game, back in the day, was revolutionary, because at the time, you never really seen anything like this. This is one of the first survival horror games. It is not the first. That title belongs to Alone in the Dark from the early 90s, but Resident Evil is the game that revolutionized the survival horror genre. It had pretty good voice acting, not really by today's standards, but back in the day, the voice acting was revolutionary. The graphics were revolutionary, again, not really today, but it was still a good. It's still a good game today, but it doesn't really hold up all that well in terms of graphics and voice acting. But in terms of scares and atmosphere, this game holds up pretty well. Now, there is some censorship with this game, and I'm going to go into detail with that right now. The opening cutscene is censored in this version, and all subsequent versions of the first Resident Evil, with the exception of the PC version, which came out here, is the uncensored version. The PlayStation version in North America is censored. Like, there's a scene There's more gore in the opening scene where Joseph gets eaten by the zombie dogs. It's longer in the uncensored version, and Chris smokes in the uncensored version. But they put like a little box over his face, with just some random stock footage of Chris to censor that. And in the bad ending, Chris smokes, but of course that was censored. But that is where the original Japanese version comes in. This is the uncensored version on the PlayStation. There was really no rating system in Japan back then. So back then, a lot of Japanese developers could get away with a lot more stuff than they can now. But this game is, by 90 standards, is a pretty gory game. And it's pretty violent as well, and it has Chris smoking. Which I have not played this version. I did slightly, but not really, because I don't have a boot disc. I can only play this through the swap method, which I don't want to damage my PlayStation. But there's the disc, and I actually have the manual for this one. I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's a lot more detailed than the American version. As you can see, there's the Bravo chopper. Again, I know it's kind of hard to see. There's Chris. And there's Jill. And there's the rest of the STARS members. And then it tells you how to play the game and stuff like that. And I believe there is some artwork in here. There's Jill just chilling right there. There's some artwork of the monsters. Oh, here's a little thing telling you to back away from the zombies, which is pretty clever. And there's Chris just chilling right there. So, of course, the Japanese version is going to be a lot more detailed than the North American release. I actually don't have the manual for this one. But that's the first Resident Evil. So, in 2002, Shinji Mikami, the creator of Resident Evil, realized that the first Resident Evil hasn't aged very well in his eyes. So Capcom made a deal with the Nintendo, and they made this. The remake. This is as cinematic as Resident Evil can get. This is a scary game. The remake. This game, when I first played it, it scared the shit out of me when I played this. Like the thunder, from the outside, the scares, the crimson heads, just everything about this game is just perfect. There is nothing wrong with the remake. It's a more cinematic experience. There's more story. The Lisa Trevor story is pretty sad. Just everything about this game is good. Of course, if you've seen my collection video, I do have the HD remaster on PS4. I also have it on the 360. But they're basically the same HD remaster, but the PS4 version does look a little better. But anyway, that's besides the point. Even on the GameCube, this game still looks fantastic. Of course, since it's the GameCube, the game is 2 discs. GameCube did that a lot. I also have Resident Evil 0 on the GameCube as well, and on the PS4. But here's the manual. I'll give you a little look at it. Tells you a little backstory. There's Chris and Jill. And then it just tells you how to play the game and stuff. Fairly basic manual for the time. By the way, bring back game manuals, game developers. I miss manuals. Now I'm going to go on about these games here. Now the second game is my favorite of the series. There's Biohazard 2 and there's Resident Evil 2. Yes, I'm that obsessive about Resident Evil 2 that I have the Japanese and the North American version, but that's how much I love this game. But I'll just hold up this one. Biohazard 2 or Resident Evil 2 just perfected everything about the first game. Everything. The story, the voice acting, the way the gameplay works, the zapping system, just everything about Resident Evil 2 was perfect. Just like the Resident Evil remake, there's nothing wrong with this game. Well, of course, it's outdated by today's standards in terms of graphics and voice acting and stuff like that. It's a little bit cheesy here and there, but for the most part, this game is fantastic. I just love the second Resident Evil. It's just amazing. There's a Leon disc, a Claire disc, and it has a little spine card, which to me is not really that important, but it's a nice little thing to have. There's the manual. Here's like a little register card, which I won't show because there is some personal information on it. And we have some stickers here. These are memory card stickers, which I have used, some of them. I especially use these, which I know a lot of collectors are going to shit on me for that, but hey, it's my game. I'll do whatever I want with it. One of the stickers is actually on my memory card, which I'll get right quick. Here's my memory card with the Biohazard sticker. Just wanted to show you that real quick. And again, the manual is more detailed. I don't have the manual for the US version, unfortunately, but here's the manual. Nice little picture there. Characters. Tells you about swapping the discs. And then it just tells you how to play the game. There's really nothing that special, but in the back there are some advertisements. There's the Resident Evil controller, which I really, really want to have. And there's the Desert Eagle Magnum thing, which is extremely hard to find, along with the Resident Evil controller, which I do want to have, and I actually want to use it. Here's the North American release of Resident Evil 2. You've seen this before, but I'll show you again. There's Leon, and again, I don't have the manual for this, unfortunately. And there's the Claire disc. If you take the Claire disc out, there's some artwork of the Lickers, which is pretty nice. I've played this copy to death. There's so much scratches on these discs. That's just how much I've played this game. Now the third game, I haven't really played all that much. I played this game about once or twice. It's not a bad game by any means, but I just haven't. There's just not really much replay value in my eyes. And this game is probably one of the most difficult games out of the original three. So there's the disc, and if you flip this over, like I showed in the collection video, there's the Dino Crisis demo, which I have played, and I haven't played Dino Crisis. But what I played of the demo is pretty good. Here's the manual. Not really much to say about this. Pretty basic manual. Gives you a little backstory. Jill and Carlos. And then it just tells you how to play the game. And here's a little thing for Capcom Edge, which was like a little rewards program that Capcom had back in the day. And I do believe that this was the first release of Resident Evil 3. I think like the first few 100,000 so copies came with the Dino Crisis demo, which this version is a little bit harder to find. I luckily got this, I think, for about $15 a few years ago. Now, it's gone up in price a little, but not by a lot. But it's not rare by any means. Then we get to this. Survivor. A lot of people shit on this game. I personally enjoy it. It's not a bad game to me. It's perfectly playable. I actually really want the Japanese version so I can play it with the light gun. I don't have a CRT, but my grandparents do. So I can, play it with the light gun, but I have to get the Japanese version, which isn't that rare. Here's the manual. little artwork. And the controls for this aren't that bad. And as a bonus, here's a little registration card in the middle of the manual, which a lot of companies used to do back in the day. I don't really see a purpose for those registration cards. There's Vincent. There's the kids, I forgot their names. This game, one thing I will say about this game, it is very forgettable. There's the only exclusive monster to this game, which I actually don't mind. And there's the Capcom Edge thing again. The creature design for the tyrant in this game is actually pretty good. I'll show you the background again. I don't know if I probably did show this, but as you can see, there's the tyrant. I actually like the design for that tyrant, and this game is actually canon. If you play the beginning of Resident Evil 0, in the prologue, it mentions Sheena Island, which is the island in this game. So the game is canon to the series. Now, before I go, I'm going to talk about one competitor I have to Resident Evil. This game came out in 1998. This came out the same year as Resident Evil 2. And it was released by a little company you may know, Squaresoft, or Square Enix. They released a little game called Parasite Eve. Yeah, I actually do have this game. I haven't played it yet. I did play the first few minutes of it, but I'm not really into RPGs, but I did pick this up because it's a sort of a survival horror RPG. I know who that is. That's Eve. There she is on the manual. And I don't have the collector CD, but I do have the actual game. And take the second disc out. There's Aya Brea right there, which is the main character. I do know a little bit about this game. It's apparently a sequel to a book called Parasite Eve, and there was a movie of the book and all this crazy stuff. Here's the manual. Characters. Not really much to say about Parasite Eve. I can't really give my opinion on it because I haven't played it. I haven't played it yet, so I can't really give an opinion. But this was my little ramble on the Resident Evil franchise. It probably wasn't really that interesting to you, but I hope you enjoyed the video anyway, and thanks for watching.